Hey guys, and welcome to the 8th of my Windows Phone tutorials. This tutorial was meant to be on a different subject, but I've had a message from someone who I think is pronounced Wes Ley. They have asked me, after my isolated storage tutorial, if you can add images to the isolated storage. So if you could have an image on the screen and then you change it, is there a way to save that image to the isolated storage? Yes, there is. Now, there are a couple of ways you can do it. But this is the way that I have done it in the past, and this is the way that I think personally is the best way to do it. So in order for you to get started on this, you can just create a project. I've called mine Image Isolated Storage. Then you just simply need to add an image onto the screen by dragging the tool over, and I've just called that My Image with a capital I. You're then going to need to add one button, which is called Add Button, and another button which is called Load Image. Now, you're also going to need to add, as we did before, right click on your project up here, add, and you're going to add a new folder, call it Images with a capital I. Then what you want to do is click on your image that you put down on the screen, your image tool, go to the source and make sure you set the source of the image to the one in your image folder you added. So once you've got this far, bravo, we've done well, at least we've achieved something. I don't know how the rest of this is going to go, so the next part, you need to go and double click on your add to storage button. What you're going to get is obviously the click event. So inside the actual back end of the main page, we're going to do a few things. We're going to do the usual thing, which is where we add our isolated storage settings, which is isolated storage settings, app settings equals isolated storage settings to application settings. Said that a bit quick, but you can always pause this and get the code from it. So what that's going to do is obviously that's going to open up the ability for us to use our isolated storage, and obviously we're saving the image to there, so if we don't have the application settings, we're not going to be able to store anything. So that's that. Now your add button click that you've just made, what's going to go in here, and I'm going to explain this for you. What we're going to have is we're going to have the memory stream. Let me see if I can zoom in to make this a bit more readable. So we're going to open up, to start with, a memory stream. We're then also going to add a writable bitmap. Now I've called my memory stream, just called it stream. I've called the writable bitmap WB for writable bitmap, and the bitmap image I've used BI. So it's just as simple as that. Now the only thing you have to do, rather than just when you're doing the memory stream, it's memory stream equals new memory stream. But with the writable bitmap, we do have to say what we want the writable bitmap to actually contain. So we're going to put my image followed by a comma and null. Now we're putting our image in there because that is what we are trying to take off of the main page. That's the image they're currently looking at, and that is what we need to add into our writable bitmap. So then what we have to do is we use wb.savejpg. Now that is going to save our image that we had as a JPEG, but we're not going to fully go through all of the saving thing. Literally the only reason we're doing this is because we're trying to get the image into the stream. Now the reason we want to do that is so that we can then actually take its bytes, because we need the byte array from the image, which is what the image is actually made up of. So in running the save JPEG, we're then actually putting it into the stream, and then we're doing stream seek, and then we're just adding the origin to begin. So our stream is now set to the content of this writable bitmap, which is our image. Now, I hope I haven't lost you there. It's not a big deal. Just if you put this code in, it's easy to understand what it's doing without having to know exactly what it's doing. So the only other thing is obviously in here we have the writable bitmaps pixel width and pixel height so that we get it to save properly. Now, we have a string. We've created a new string here and we've put it data. Now, the data, we need to convert it. And when you type convert, you might have to add a few things. Obviously, you're going to have to add the memory stream, the writable bitmaps, the bitmap images. They're all using system, Windows Media Imaging, I/O. You know, once you've typed it out, you hover over it and you can click on the drop down to add them. So what we need to do is we need to convert to base 64 string, and we need to then set the string. The thing we're converting to that string needs to be the stream, which has got our image data in it. And we need to get buffer on it, right? So what that's going to do is that's going to give us the byte array of that image as a string. Now the reason we need it as a string is because, as you're seeing here, we're going to do appsettings.add. Now you could have a dynamic image naming convention here. You could have had it so that when the image popped up on the screen and it's got a title with it, you could just set, if the title's like, say, a text block, sorry, just set it to the text block's text, and that's what the app settings will contain as the name. Because remember, this key is what you will reference later to bring the image back. So you could name it with a number or whatever. It doesn't matter as long as you remember this and you are able to use this later in your code. So we're going to add a new app setting under image, and we're going to set its content to data. Now the reason we did this to string is because in application settings it's easier to put these things in as a string, and if you remember how you put them in, take them out, it's really efficient. I've told you, app settings is the best thing, like ever. So then we've got that sorted. Now I've added, when you click on the image and you go over to your little lightning strike for the event handlers, if you click on that and then scroll down to tap, I have added a tap event. If you just double click there, it will take you to your newly placed code. Now all I'm doing here is I'm setting the image to nothing. That is literally it. I'm doing my image source equals new bitmap image, and I'm just setting its source rather than to an image path. I'm just setting it to blank. Now arguably it's going to try and find blank in your application and it won't be there, and that's what we want. We want it to disappear because we want to see if it reappears when we do it later. So that's as simple as that, just our standard imaging that we've done in the previous tutorials. That's that. Now the last thing is double clicking on your load image button. Your load image button will then load up this click event where we are going to do a new set of bytes, and we're going to call it image bytes, and we're going to set the bytes to be what was in our application settings. So in order to do that, we know when we put it in, we converted it to base 64 string. So this time we need to convert from base 64 string, not to. So we're converting back the string into its original state of base 64, right? Into its bytes, sorry, from the base 64 string. So in converting it, we need to add from base 64 string, and then inside these brackets we need to put app settings and then the square brackets, because that's how we call the data from app settings. It's the curly ones to add it, and it's the squared ones to call it. And we're going to call the same image that we put it in as, so it's just called image, and it's .toString. And we want to just make sure that what we're getting out the app settings is in its string format so that we don't have any confusion. So you go ahead, chuck that line in there. What we've effectively done is we've now actually given ourselves, as it should be, the image in its byte kind of way. This is how it looks. And if you output this into a message box as a string, you'll just see a whole crazy number of like letters, numbers, and all sorts of things. It's crazy. It's not an image, but it is an image if you know how to convert it. So that's your image bytes there. Now what we have to do is we have to take a new memory stream, and we set the memory stream as MS, because MS stands for memory stream now. That's how we're doing this. Remember, you can call this whatever you like, whatever makes it easy for you. And you need to set your memory stream to be image bytes, because that is the new byte array we have in here in this image, which we've set to be our app settings. So then we just choose a new bitmap image, and I've called this one bitmap image as full. And then you just do bitmap image.setSource to the MS. So we're setting it to the memory stream. Now once the source has been set to the memory stream, the bitmap image will then take in those bytes and it will turn the byte array into the image that we want. Now I'm going to start running up the emulator now as I explain the last part, because it is going to take a moment to load. So once we've got our bitmap image on the task of converting our byte array back into an image, we then have to tell our image on our page here, our my image, where its source is. Now its source is going to be the bitmap image that we've assigned here. So we literally just do myImage.source equals bitmap image, and that will actually give us our image back from the application settings, and it will put it on the screen for the user. Now that's the theory. Let's see if it works. I'm thinking it should do. Now, obviously, when you're adding the image, if you're adding multiple images into the application settings, you need to remember to go back to the isolated storage tutorials and just check that if app settings contains it, remove it, re-add it, or whatever, name them correctly. You could use the lists to list the images you've put in. You could have a drop down, you could have a list box with a whole load of lists, like names in it, sorry. And when you click on the name, that could be the name that's in isolated storage, and you could pass that name through, check app settings if it has that name in it, and then produce the image for the user. That's something you could do. So what we're going to do is we're simply just going to click add to storage. Okay, I did click that, don't be fooled. That was actually pressed. And then what we'll do is we'll click on the image to remove it. So now the image has gone to the blank setting, and now when I click load, our image has come back. Now I know that that image has come from the application settings because it has no other way of getting on there. So in pressing load, we have done that. Now to prove to you that it was added to the settings, if we click on add storage again, it's crashed. Now the reason it's crashed, you will see in a moment, is because there is an item with the same key already been added. So just to show you that once again, once you run the application, your add to storage button is reading what is in this image box right here. This could be any image right now, any image, could be from the web, whatever, it doesn't matter. You can use the image tutorial from before to see how to add a web, like an image from a website or something, or a local. It really doesn't matter, whatever is in this box, when you press add to storage, that has now been added into the isolated storage. And then obviously we see here our image tap is going to remove the source and set it to blank, which it does. And then all we're doing is our last little bit here, which is converting our image, our application settings image back to a byte array and putting it onto the image source. And that's quite simply what happens when you press that. So there you go. That is how you can actually store your images inside your application settings. This is how I like to do it. I mean, obviously you can put a good few in there. Just go crazy, really. You mean do what you need to do. The only thing I would advise is if you are putting images in there, give them a way to get rid of them, because you don't just want an application setting full of tons of different images, because that is not going to be good. Like, that's just going to get messy. So, as always guys, thanks for watching the tutorials. I hope you like them. If you have a problem, like Wes Ley did, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, then go ahead and send me a message, because I do respond to you guys and I do appreciate your feedback. So don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.